Hey everybody, welcome back to my garage. It is Monday, April 27th, and this is the final YouTube video lecture of the semester for American government and politics. I want to first of all thank you all for being diligent and coming to class and participating before the shutdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But I really want to thank you all for bearing with me, for hanging with this class, for watching these videos and so forth after the shutdown. I want to thank you for your studiousness, for your attention, and for sharing my determination that this is going to be a good class, productive class, where you learn the things you need to learn about American government and politics, despite the odds against college class actually completing its mission this semester. You all have made this possible, so thank you so much for bearing with me. Now, today is going to focus only on the final exam. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you right now what's going to be on the exam, and then later today I'm going to email it to you so you'll have it in writing. This is very important. You must have this to me no later than May 4th. May 4th. Why May 4th? Because I've got to get these grades submitted to the college a couple days after that. And I know that the administration has got enough on their hands right now dealing with everything related to the shutdown. So I want to have a seamless process of getting finals from you all. I get them graded and I get them to the college. So this is due May 4th. That being said, the exam will have two parts. The first part, I'll ask you to identify one amendment to the United States Constitution. Tell me what that amendment is all about. Tell me why Congress and the American people believed that amendment was necessary at the time it passed. And tell me, and this is the most important part of this question, tell me how it continues to impact people in the United States today. So, part one, identify an amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Tell me why it was needed, or why people felt that it was needed in the first place. And then tell me how it impacts us today. Part two, identify an individual. This is one person who has had a significant impact on American government and politics. And tell me how the things that person did are impacting you today. So I want you to identify an individual person, someone in the history of the United States. It can be a man, woman, any gender, any race, any time period, from the past all the way to the present. And tell me how their activity relating to our political system and or our government impacts you. This can be positive or negative. So, and remember, I'm going to send this out in writing to you, but just to discuss very briefly, let's talk about amendments. There are 27 amendments to the Constitution. We specifically covered 8 of them in this class. We covered the 1st, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 8th, 13, 14, 15. We covered those in here, but there are 19 other amendments we didn't even talk about. Pick one. Pick one of the amendments to the Constitution. Tell me why it was needed at the time. And again, most important thing, tell me how it impacts us today. Again, I mentioned there's 27. We talked about 8 in here. There's some really big ones we didn't talk about. All of the first 10 are particularly important. It's kind of hard to apply the Third Amendment to modern day life, but you can give it a shot. I'm going to read whatever you write. It would be easier, I believe, for you all to write about it and for me to grade it if you either wrote about one of the amendments we discussed in the class or some other really significant ones, like the 19th Amendment. That's the one that gave women the right to vote. Well, it specifically says that the government cannot deny someone the right to vote based on gender. That's a pretty big one. It's a really big one that we didn't get to in this class, but that's one you could write about. But also, obviously, For the entire country, 13, 14, and 15 amendments are a pretty big deal, but particularly to people of African descent. So there's a lot to choose from. Pick one. Describe the amendment. Tell me what it does, how it functions. Tell me why it was necessary or why people thought it was necessary. And tell me how it impacts us today. That's the amendments. When it comes to the second part of the final exam, an individual person. This can be anyone. Now, if you pick your grandmother, you're going to have to really work to show the contribution. I don't know your grandmothers, but I feel like my grandmothers, they were wonderful people. But if I was trying to speak very broadly in terms of how they impacted our society and our country and the people living in it today, I can talk about individuals, but as far as impacting the system, that's what I want, impact on the system, that'd be a stretch. If you want to go for the low-hanging fruit here, you can talk about a president, talk about Lincoln, talk about Washington, talk about either of the presidents, Roosevelt, Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, Truman, Trump. Presidents are pretty easy to discuss and identify, and you can find information in your textbook or find it online, or you can get it from your class notes about certain presidents. There are other people as well, though. I mentioned President Kennedy. Well, what about his brother, Robert Kennedy? That'd be an interesting person to write about. What about all the many people involved in the civil rights movement who never held office? I think in the lecture, I know I mentioned Dr. King. I know I mentioned Medgar Evers, Emmett Till. He died very young, but it's not hard to talk about his impact on our system. There are a lot of people who were not only, not presidents, but not elected officials at all. There are people from all walks of life that have had huge impacts on our country, on our system, and the things they did are impacting us today. So that's the assignment. That's the final. It's due May 4th. I'm going to type it up and send it out to you. It may not be until tonight, but before I go to bed this evening, you're going to get that in your email inbox, and it's due May 4th. I want to tell you all that I've really enjoyed this semester. You've been a wonderful class. You academically performed as well as any class I've had at Simmons, and as well as any class could be expected to. So thank you all so much for that. Once again, thank you for your diligence. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for your patience in dealing with all the COVID-19 related stuff. I hope you're all staying safe. I hope you have a wonderful end of your semester. I hope your finals go well. I hope you have a good summer. Even though we can't be with other people the way we'd like to be, at least we can be outside. So look forward to seeing some of you around campus and semesters to come. Anyone who's graduating, congratulations. And thank you all so much for being part of this class.